Have you ever wanted to be a coach or to really be an expert in your field, supporting other people with your knowledge? Well, I had the opportunity today to be with my man, the one and only Ajit Nawalkha on the Business of Coaching podcast. And I shared all about podcasting and the lessons that I've learned in 4.5 years of having a podcast, all the things that have worked, and even more importantly, all the things that haven't worked, because way more stuff hasn't worked than has worked. So definitely check it out. You're going to learn a lot.
Hello. Welcome to the Business of Coaching podcast. This is Ajit Nawalkha, your host at EverCoach, the #1 channel for coaches to learn how to be a better coach. And on this particular podcast, on this particular episode, we'll be talking to a very dear friend of mine. His name is Mark Shapiro. He's sitting right here, and we're going to be talking about how he has created a fantastic coaching business using his amazing podcast, which you absolutely have to check out once you watch this episode, called Are You Being Real? You'll know more about what he's been doing out in the world in just a couple of seconds. But until then, get started and let's roll it. Hey, Mark. So excited to see you here, brother.
Ajit, thanks for having me, man. It's a pleasure to be on the show.
Yeah, I am excited to talk to you today. I loved being on Are You Being Real just a couple of months ago when my book Live Big was coming out, and I was so excited to have that conversation with you and have that amazing set that you have where you shoot the whole thing in your house. It's amazing, right? And I was just like, hey, as soon as we started a podcast, like, I gotta bring in Mark on because such a great conversation we had. So I want to dive in a little bit, but before that,
sure,
let's talk about you a little bit. Let's give a little introduction to the people that may have no idea about Are You Being Real or about Mark Shapiro. Tell us a little bit about your story.
Yeah, sure. Well, I grew up in Minneapolis, Minnesota, and I was fortunate to grow up with a loving family. And at the same time, I just kind of always was very inquisitive about what my role in the world was, and I was very sensitive to other people's needs and wants, and I found myself really conforming and kind of doing what I thought was expected of me. So I followed my brother to Emory University in Atlanta and got a job in corporate America, and it wasn't until I was 30 years old where I was like, whoa, is this really the life that I want to live? And my whole world crumbled when I got divorced when I was 31. And that was really the point in my life where I realized that I really wasn't living authentically. I was just trying to keep up. I was doing what everyone else expected of me. And that's really the first time I asked myself, well, if I could be anyone, who would I want to be? And if I could do anything with my life, what would I want to do? And so authenticity was really the key word, which set me down this path of self-discovery and really my exploration of what it means to be authentic, what it means to be real in this modern world.
Wow, that's fantastic. So how did that journey go? Tell us a little bit more, because going to the realization that authenticity is the thing, and we know, and I'm sure we'll get into this dialogue at some point today, is that authenticity is that cornerstone of success in business, success in life, success in your relationship, is that cornerstone, but it's hard to get to, and it's hard to define, very importantly. What was it that led you to get to that word and saying, is it about being real? It's about being authentic. And then what did it mean for you? And what does it mean for anybody that's listening right now as to what does being authentic even mean?
Sure. Well, I think most people think that they're being authentic because, we live in our own little skin suits here. We're all having our own experience. So everything feels real. I know, if I wake up in the morning and I feel scared, that certainly feels real. And, when I'm connecting with a friend, when I'm connecting with you, it certainly feels real. So where does this inauthenticity come in? Where is this idea that I need to focus on authenticity come in? And for me, it was doing a lot of personal development and having people tell me that they thought I was coming across to them as inauthentic. And I'm like, how is that even possible? I feel like I've always been someone who wears my heart on my sleeve. I've always been someone who's pretty expressive about how I feel. But at the same time, I care about what others think of me. And I definitely still consider myself to be a recovering people pleaser. I don't really like confrontation that much. So sometimes I will not necessarily honor my truth to make sure somebody else feels comfortable or to say the thing that I feel like I'm supposed to say to someone. And what I didn't realize is that other people noticed. And so when I got feedback that I was coming across as inauthentic or coming across as scripted or coming across as an actor, all of that was really news to me. And so when I when I heard that, I didn't believe it. But then when I let it sink in, I was like, okay, well, what's the opportunity for me? And I really realized that there's 7 billion people on this planet. there's only one of each of us. And if we're not being ourselves, then like, what are we doing? And we all have such unique talents and gifts. And just like the fact that there's one of us out of 7 billion, we're a key puzzle piece. At least that's something that I believe. And that in order to, be ourselves, to, live a fulfilling life. I know you talked about success a little bit, about authenticity is key to success. I think it's just key to being happy. It's key to being fulfilled. Because if we're not honoring our truth, then we're not going to be happy. We're going to be, doing things to keep up with other people or try to honor other people's truths. But then we personally end up losing. And what I've learned in kind of my exploration of authenticity is not only do we individually lose when we're not honoring our own truth, speaking our truth, going after our hopes and dreams and being whoever we want to be, then not only do we lose, but everybody else loses out as well, because you don't want to be some watered down version of everybody else. You want to be yourself.
Absolutely. So how did that, or how can anybody take that journey to finding that authenticity or that authentic voice in your opinion?
Sure. Well, I think that authenticity is a loaded word. It's a concept. It's a buzzword that I feel like we're hearing everywhere. I went to a talk about a month ago, and the person who was speaking said the word authentic probably 15 times in a 30-minute talk. And what I thought was interesting is I didn't feel like they were actually vulnerable at all, didn't really let people see them during the talk. So what I've learned is it's one thing to utilize the word authentic and for that to be a value, and then another thing to actually be it. So that's kind of on one hand. On the other hand, we all have our own definition of what authenticity is or what authenticity means to us. And I say, amazing. Like everyone's entitled to their own opinion and to be whoever they want to be. But when I really dissect down that word authenticity, like what does that really even mean? Does it mean being true to who you are? Does it mean like going after your hopes and dreams and like honoring like what you want for your life on like a big macro level? So if you were to, be in an airplane and you're looking down on your life from like that level, 10,000 feet up in the air, like, and all the choices you've made throughout your whole life, and, is your life the way that you ultimately want it to be? To me, that's authenticity. But also authenticity is on the ground. Like right here, right now, between the two of us. Like, are we being real with each other? Are we like saying what's really on our minds right now? Like for me right now, like I'm very grateful to have the floor here with you. And then like on the other side of things, like I have this voice in my head saying, am I providing value for your audience? Am I good enough? Like, do I have a message that's worth sharing? So all these things are real for me right here, right now on the ground. And then I think even below that, underneath it all, is our idea of what our identities are. And I think authenticity is being whoever we want to be in this world. So to me, that's all of it. And there's like authenticity in every single different area of our life. Like, are we being real about our professional career? Are we being real about our sexual desires? Are you being real about the way you spend your time, spending your time on the things that are really most important to you versus just doing things that waste time or, being addicted to your phone and so forth. And then what makes it even more challenging, if that's not already like a mouthful right there, is we've got so many external influences and pressures, our parents teaching us what's right and wrong from the time we were kids, to, integrating at school and wanting to fit in and belong in school, and then advertising and messages coming at us in all directions. Like it's not that easy to be authentic. It's not that easy to be a human being. So for me, I don't have all the answers. I just love to be in the question and to really get to the root of this topic so I can get a better understanding of both others and myself.
Wow, that's beautiful. That's beautiful. Just to sit in that question and be comfortable and say, listen, I am asking that question to myself as I'm doing this journey with my audience, with my people I interview, people I communicate with, people you coach as well. I'm guessing that's the dialogue that you're like, okay, there's layers to peel here. There's layers and layers of conditioning and programming and all of that needs to be peeled here. And I'm grateful that you're taking the opportunity and actually making that research happen and actually making that conversation go more mainstream and have more people be able to really ask that question, what is really being authentic mean?
For sure.
So tell us a little bit about what is it that you are creating as an impact in the world beyond the podcast. Of course, the podcast is one of the amazing things that you do, but I know you do so many other amazing things that are out there.
Oh, thank you very much. Well, the podcast was kind of the impetus when I started this journey of being a coach and being in personal development and really standing in my power to be the positive change that I seek in the world and to make the positive impact I want. So it started with a workshop about authenticity, then it evolved into a podcast, and it's evolved into so many other things at this point. But to me right now, I am really paying a lot of attention to influence. There's influencers on social media, and really, regardless of what we do based on Newton's third law, we're all influencers. There, for every action, there's the equal and equivalent reactions. So it's a great question for all of us to ask ourselves, what kind of influence are we having on others? And to me, kindness is the key. That's the kind of world that I want to live in, a world where we're not only kind to the world, but kind to each other and kind to ourselves. So that's really kind of at the mission of like what really lights me up right now and some of the key focuses of the things that I'm doing. So I'm doing a lot of speaking on the art of kindfluence, helping people at both an individual level create and experience more kindness in their lives, both for their own personal benefit, for the connections that they have to the people who are most important to them, like building and sustaining, nurturing beautiful relationships that are the gift that keep on giving, that make us feel less alone, that make us feel more appreciated, and help us get what we ultimately want. And then on a bigger scale, collectively as a culture, what kind of influence are we having on one another? And I know authenticity is a big piece of that, because trust is a big piece of working together for that kindness to even occur. So doing a lot of speaking on kindfluence, and then I'm building an app right now called Love Bomb that I am super duper fired up about. I realize that there are a couple problems that people have in regards to their relationships. One is that we all have so many people that we've connected with in our lives, and it's tough to manage some of those relationships. And although we have social media, they don't necessarily help us with individual relationships, like making sure that we remain connected and in touch and in support of one another. So on one hand, I noticed that was a problem. And then on another hand, I feel like people are really under acknowledged. Oftentimes we hear from a lot of people that we know and love, people from our past, on our birthdays, or maybe on Thanksgiving or holidays or Christmas, or when we have major life events, we get married, we have kids, or some sort of big achievement. That's usually when we get love from other people in this kind of achievement-based culture. But to me, I kind of think that's BS. So I kind of wanted to take those two issues, combine them together, and that is Love Bomb. So the idea kind of is, what would it be like if every day kind of felt like your birthday, where you get random messages from people you love, just reminding you how awesome you are, a memory you shared together. And so it really serves both purposes of adding a little bit more love and kindness to the world and helping us manage our relationships and stay in touch.
That's a beautiful idea. That's such a beautiful idea.
Thanks.
Thank you for doing that.
My pleasure.
I'm looking forward to that app. Yeah. So tell us, let's dive into the conversation that we kind of wanted to have.
Sure.
To kind of steer towards the business side of coaching. Okay. Like we talked about previously before we started recording this, is you have, of course, started, like you said, from the idea of a workshop. You went into the podcast, and that really blew up. That really took your message further and further. And now, of course, you're going in these other tangents that also involve you into kindfluence, like you said. So let's go to one step further before when you moved into the kindfluence territory, which is the podcast. So as you know, as coaches, we are always, of course, very interested in being able to create a great impact in the society out there and people. And of course, during that process, we want to also enroll them and have work with us and all that type of good stuff that needs to happen. But podcasting is such a great way, because you can start and jump from a point of saying, hey, this will add value to you. This will create a transformation for you. And now that you have that, if you're interested, I'm available to you. And it also leans into the idea of bringing on guests and actually having meaningful conversation around certain topics. Like for me, it's so amazing to be able to bring people on who are willing to share how they have evolved their business, share their business ideas with the larger community. I love doing that. I love the idea of business. I love teaching business. I love learning business. I love coaching on business. And so it's fantastic for me, because now I get to sit down with somebody like you who's built a phenomenal practice on the back of a podcast, and I get to understand how podcasting really works, right? So it's fun for me, but it also is tremendous value for anybody that's watching. So I love this format that has happened in the universe today. And you have been somebody who's already mastered it in many ways for your audience. So tell us a little bit of a walkthrough. Firstly, why did you get into the whole podcasting thing, so people can understand context on when it should be interesting for them?
Sure. Well, I'd love to share some insights, because in 4.5 years, I feel like I've learned a lot of stuff that is effective. And furthermore, I've learned a lot more, even more than what I've learned that's effective as to what's ineffective. So I'd love to be able to share a little bit, just because I want to save anyone who's considering launching a podcast or maybe has a podcast from making some of the same mistakes that I made. So as I mentioned, I did that authenticity workshop and got a great turnout, about 50 people. And the second time I did it, it was about the same. And at that point, the people who showed up were mostly people who were in my own personal network. So the question I asked myself is, all right, I've got some traction here. How can I bring this to more people? And I was really inspired at the time by a good friend of mine, Lewis Howes, who had the School of Greatness podcast that was really blowing up. And I thought to myself, let's launch a podcast. I was kind of scared to do video at that point in time. So an audio podcast seemed like a good way to go. I wouldn't only rely on sharing my own personal insights, but would be able to interview some other people. And I instantly was telling myself this story in my head that got me really excited about it, that I would launch the podcast. I'd have all my most influential people from my network on the show, and they'd share all sorts of valuable insights. They'd share the podcast out widely with their audience. And like very quickly, I'd amass a big following that would attract sponsors, and that would lead to other opportunities, you know, from one-on-one coaching to group masterminds and live events, writing a book and maybe doing a documentary on it, paid speaking events. I saw all this opportunity, and I had all the confidence in the world, at least in my head, that I was going to be able to pull it all off. And the reality is it was not a smooth go. And even 4.5 years later, some of the things that I thought would happen when I started, like, still haven't happened. So I think a podcast is a great vehicle, as you mentioned, to get your message out there, to connect with amazing people, to connect with, you know, an audience, to build, you know, potential, you know, larger practice, and to connect with people one-on-one. With that said, there's a lot of challenges. So for me personally, and what I know a lot of people who come to me who want to start a podcast, they usually are like pretty convinced of three things. Number one is they think their show is going to be a smash success. You know, they think that their idea is really needed in the world, not to say that it's not, but they think that it's going to be a massive, immediate hit. So that's the first thing. And usually what comes with that is money, sponsors, money. And then third is all sorts of new opportunities that maybe, you know, you don't have today, you think are going to come as a result of having this massively successful podcast and all these sponsors. But the reality is that it's a lot harder to do. It's easier said than done. It's a very crowded marketplace out there today. On Apple alone, there's about 750,000 active podcasts. And that's 50% growth over last year. So last year in 2018, there were about 500,000 active podcasts. Now there's about 750,000. So there's so many podcasts out there. And usually the podcasts that, you know, people are talking about that are, you know, the water cooler type of podcast, or the podcasts that you're talking with your friends about at dinner, they're oftentimes like the podcasts that are at the very top of iTunes charts. Maybe, you know, an NPR show like Serial, maybe a self-development podcast, you know, that's Gary Vee's or Tim Ferriss's or Joe Rogan. These podcasts are all the unicorns. And in many instances, the hosts of these shows are people who already had big followings or big backers like NPR when the show was launched. They weren't, you know, average people like I was when I started. When I started, I didn't have any social media following outside of my own personal network. That they have a big, huge head start. So not to say that it's not possible to have one of the top podcasts in the world. It is, and I'm a believer in possibility. So that shouldn't necessarily be a deterrent, but I think it's something to be real about when you start a podcast. You know, what are realistic expectations that you can set? And then how can you really set yourself up to win? So having said that, here are some of the greatest, I think, benefits to having a podcast. And the first is to just get your word, get your message out there. It's a great platform to share what you're passionate about. If there's something that's brewing inside of you that you want to share out, go for it. Podcast is an amazing tool to do that. The second thing I would say is if you already have an existing business, whether you're already a coach, it's a great vehicle then to help get that message out there, to help establish yourself as an expert. and to potentially bring in coaching clients versus like expecting that all of your money is going to come in as a result of advertising. You've got your own products and services that you're talking about on the show that are going to pay out a lot better than what you'd get from a sponsor, especially before you have a large audience. And I can go into a little bit more if you want in terms of what the sponsorship money actually looks like, so you can kind of get a better understanding. I guess I'll just do it now. So in the podcasting world, the way that sponsors usually pay is per 1,000 listeners. So, and the metrics are usually about, sponsor will pay you $20 to $40 per 1,000 listeners. Okay. So let's say you have 1,000 listeners for your show. A sponsor, if you can get one, would potentially give you $20 for that episode, right? And I know for me with my podcast, like the costs alone for a single episode of a podcast are way higher than $20. That it's like, do I really want to have branding and a sponsor in the podcast if I'm still going to be like underwater with it? Do I really want to subject my audience to ads if it's really not pushing the needle in terms of putting dollars in my pocket or adding value to the audience? With that said, if you're a coach and you've got a coaching package that, maybe a singular session is a couple $100 to, a coaching package that's, upwards of $5,000 or $10,000, for every sale you make, utilizing your podcast to promote those services, there is money there. So I think having a business on the back of a podcast is very valuable. And then third, I would say, is what comes out of having a podcast in terms of like relationships that you make with your guests or relationships that you make with your audience. And so to me, those are like three great reasons to start a podcast. But I think it's important to be real about what your goals and expectations are and to make sure you're doing it for the right reasons and setting the right kind of expectations to set you up to have something that's going to be fulfilling and hopefully feel like it's worth your time and energy and valuable to others.
Absolutely. Can I ask a related question?
Yeah.
So one of the thoughts that at least I've had around podcasting is, like you said, I'm not competing with Joe Rogan's podcast because I don't have mainstream people coming on my podcast. I'm not wanting to do that. That's not my intent. That's not my drive. Not yet, at least, right? I'm focused very much on a very small community of coaching or coaches. There may be 100,000 of us in the world. Let's say even with uncertified people, we are maybe 500,000 coaches in the world. So I am not trying to say, how can I have 1 million downloads for every episode that I have? Because, well, it's not I'm not serving them. There is no point of me serving them. And most of the people that start in the coaching business or even are a medium scale coach, like anybody that is doing under 5-10 million, they are not looking at the most mainstream topic. They're looking at something that's very niche, is a very related to a particular type of person that would be listening or curious about it, right? And we know, especially for coaches, if you're a trainer and you have online programs, maybe the math won't work out still, or maybe it would, I don't know. But definitely for coaches where the minimum package is, say, 2,000 or 3,000 person, or for one coaching gig for 2-3 months, I don't think you need a 20,000 person daily listener or anything like that. Or at least that's what my question is really going is the theory of 1,000 raving fans valid in the podcasting world? Are the 1,000 raving fans of your podcast enough for you as a coach? If you are in the coaching world, if you are actually serving as a coach and you're taking care of your packages and pricing your packages in the way as a coach does, are 1,000 raving fans a good idea?
Yes, absolutely. And when I hear you say 1,000, raving fans, to me, what I hear with that is that there's a relationship between you and your fans.
Absolutely.
And that it's not just like 1,000 people who just like love listening to the podcast, whatever, but don't engage with you. To me, like a raving, engaged audience is going to create the business that you need to generate those, few $1,000 sales and to do awesome work together. Because if you're not in that relationship with your audience, then people might have a harder time seeing how you can support them. So I think asking questions to your audience, what types of topics would you want to see addressed on the podcast, or, what issues are showing up in your business, what questions do you have about them, and we're going to address those on the podcast. Then you're like legitimately helping solve problems that individual people have. And to me, that's what creates those 100 or 1,000 raving fans.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Completely agree to that. And the reason why I was also asking the question is because most of us, like as coaches, we don't have the budgets for spending thousands of dollars on promoting a podcast or getting into a real world social media paid campaign or get on major TV shows and say, all right, my podcast life, we are not like a Dak Shepard where Ellen is going to wildly promote his podcast. It's not like that. We're not comedians. We're artists in our own way, but very different type of artists, right? We're personal growth junkies. We're trying to going out in the world, trying to create a positive impact. It's not the most mainstream dialogue even a lot of times, right?
Yeah.
And I wanted to kind of present that thought that yes, you will not have the top podcast in the world, and that's okay, because that's not the intention that we're putting out to understand how to utilize your podcast to really create transformative change out in the world and be able to engage with your audience and to be able to really serve your clients. And to be able to send even to people who are potential clients to say, hey, you know what? Why don't you go check out this episode I did with Mark? You know, or like, for example, right now, whatever conversation we are having, this conversation is great. Next time, if somebody sends me a note on our list or on database or in communication, hey, I would love to really start with podcast. Or like, hey, you know what? I did an episode with Mark. You want to maybe check it out on what he said about podcasting and how to really think about it and what not to think about and what not to expect, right? And what the sponsorships look like if that's the model you're going for. You know, it's kind of, I feel like it's tremendous amount of value that can be generated and an add-on that can be done if you just kind of have that expectation of knowing all I need is 1,000 raving fans. 1,000 people were excited every time I put out an episode, comment on it, engage back from it, save it, download it, share it. That's all I need, I feel.
Yeah. A couple of things just to piggyback on what you're saying. I totally agree with that. Interesting fact is podcasts that are listened to, and when people discover podcasts, 67% of new podcast discoveries come from personal recommendations. So, you know, if a podcast is like really valuable for me and like, you know, I tell a friend about it, that's like how 67% of podcast discovery works. Another 10% is people just going to the iTunes store and finding it. And then about 8 to 10% is from social media. So the biggest form of discovery is someone hearing a podcast episode that was valuable to them and telling their friend about it.
Oh, okay. Well, that's fantastic to know, because that also means one of the keys that you as a person who's producing one should think about, is this shareable? Is this something that people will say, hey, I want to share this nugget with somebody who's a buddy of mine, right? So the topics that you pick probably should be that is of an appeal to an audience that also would be willing to share. I mean, I'm just spitballing. I'm new to this world myself. I'm learning from you.
And believe it or not, in terms of the genre that does the best for podcasts is comedy. So if you're going to do a podcast, try to work some comedy in. I'm usually not so great at doing that on my show. As we try to get like really real and vulnerable, but people love, you know, something that's light and educational. Yeah,
something that they can listen to in their car, I would think, right?
Believe it or not, most podcast listening does come in the home, but in the car, like that segment is growing dramatically.
Oh, wow.
As people are on the go.
Oh, wow. That's amazing, because I know, but I guess it also depends on the type of people that we're talking about, because like me and my wife, we only listen to inspirational podcasts or educational podcasts in some capacity. It's always in the car or right in the morning. Right in the morning, like when you're waking up, it's like the first thing. If it's not a book, it's a podcast that we start the day with. But that kind of how it really pans out. But that actually shows how normal human behavior is as well. Now let's get into a little bit of nitty-gritty for people who want to go like, all right, it seems this is an exciting opportunity. I'd like to know more. So what is it that somebody should be thinking about when they are thinking about, what is, like, if you have like 4 or 5 checklist points that here is when you are probably primed to start a podcast, what would be your thought would be on that for somebody who's trying to evaluate right now?
In terms of their determining whether they should start a podcast?
Yeah. Let's start there, and then we'll go into what to do.
Yeah, I think first and foremost, you want to have a clear vision. So if you got a clear idea of what you want to talk about, what you want your show to be about, maybe you have a creative idea or concept. Usually I always recommend that to people, because there's a million podcasts, inspirational coaching podcasts. So what's going to make your show truly unique? What's going to be that angle that you have, whether it's like the way that the discussions unfold and flow, maybe you do it in a sauna, you know, like have some sort of like individual approach to it or nuance. But the more clear you are on your vision, who you want to serve, if you're clear on that, and you have those expectations as to why you're starting the podcast, and like, you know, you're doing it for the right reasons, just because like you'd be talking about these things anyways. And if, you know, there's anybody else who'd want to tune in and perhaps get value, then, you know, all the merrier. Or if you know, want to utilize it as a vehicle to, you know, build your credibility for your business, or you want to use it as an opportunity to connect to some of the leaders in your field, I'd say all those are great reasons. So if any of those things resonate with you and you have a clear idea, go for it.
Okay, that's awesome. Cool. So have something unique and know that what's the vision for your podcast. Is there anything else that one should think about as when they're starting, as to what type of work that it'll require, or how much you need to commit, or what does it feel like there? Yeah.
It can be a full-time job. The nice thing about podcasting, there's a very low barrier for entry. Like, you don't even really need microphones. You literally, if you wanted to have a podcast, it's pretty much a free thing to do if you're willing to, you know, not edit it at all, or do minimal editing, maybe with GarageBand on your computer. Like, you can do that. And that's why everyone and their moms and some, maybe even your grandparents, have a podcast. I don't know. But so that's the nice thing. With that said, to keep in mind, like, we live in this really noisy culture right now. And when we have a podcast, or when we have any piece of content for that matter, when we put it out there into the world, you know, we hope other people will see it, probably think it's great, and other people will think it's valuable. But the truth is, we're competing for someone's attention with everything else in their life. So we're competing with, you know, their family, their friends, we're competing with their job, their, you know, anything else they find entertaining, and then every other brand and every other person with a podcast is trying to get their attention. So with that in mind, you need to be really creative in your approach to even get someone's attention, that they would see, okay, there is a podcast. This looks like it'd be valuable to me. I'm going to invest maybe upwards of 10, 20, maybe even an hour of my time to watch this, so that that person even has the opportunity to share it via word of mouth, or to gain the benefit that you hope that they'll gain from it. So with that said, that it can absolutely be a full-time job. And I think that, like, the more you put into, you know, taking a long form piece of like podcast content that's maybe 30 minutes to an hour, and slicing it down into a 1-minute clip that you can put on social media to get someone's attention, and for, you know, to whet their palate for them to want to listen to the whole episode, that's great. To have a weekly email newsletter to let people know, like, hey, and we've got this great podcast episode. If you're experiencing a problem in your business, you know, or in your personal life tied to, you know, X, Y, or Z, you should check it out. So it really helps to kind of have that perfect storm of not only your content and producing the best piece of content, you know, which requires preparation and getting the right guests and all that kind of stuff, but then putting it out there in a way that people will actually notice and want to tune in. So it can be very, very time consuming. I think a lot of podcasters have this great idea, and like I said, they think their show is going to be a huge hit. They'll record 10 to 20 episodes. They won't gain the traction on it, and then they'll quit. So there's a lot of challenges with it, but I think if we have, you know, realistic expectations, and we just do it for the sake of, and, you know, we're like in relationship with our results, and we pivot and we see what works and what doesn't work, I think that it's a great tool.
Oh, that's awesome. Thank you so much for that
My pleasure.
insightful knowledge that people can now have a measure of if this is right for them or not. That's a great starting off point. Now let's get into, let's say somebody decided, they're like, you know what, I feel good about this. I feel like this is what I want to do. This feels right for me. This feels like I have a little bit of audience, or this is where I will get my audience, whatever that is, the jam that they have decided in starting a podcast. Let's talk about, what do they do next? What should be the next step for somebody that is now getting set up? So we'll probably get a little bit technical, or we'll need a little bit technical help if you would, or not help per se, but like insight. It's like, hey, look out for this stuff, look out for this stuff, look out for this stuff. We'll also link up a bunch of gear that we use, and in case you want to see how we are recording all of this good stuff. But other than that, I'm looking more for psychology behind actually getting started, and some steps to take care of, and like you mentioned, a lot of mistakes that you made that can be highlighted for people so they don't make it.
Well, one thing that I learned pretty quickly is that if you're going to do an interview formatted show, to try to do them in person. Because I have personally found that when I'm face-to-face with you, then we're going to be more connected, and we're probably going to create like a more authentic, valuable piece of content for the audience. So I've definitely noticed that, but also for the relationship between us and the relationship, between me and the guests. Like, what I found is that when I did like a Skype or a Zoom interview, and it was like, let's say someone I didn't previously know, they'd show up to the call, and you'd maybe have like 2 or 3 minutes to connect with them before you hit record, and then you're in it. So there's not much time even to build a relationship with the person. And what I always found, like if I had authors on, that I would just be like another stop on their press tour versus like I have them come over to my home, we share a coffee, I maybe have, share a little vulnerable story so they can like see me and what I stand for. And then it creates them to have a safe space to maybe get more vulnerable during the conversation to create a better piece of content. So that to me was like a very, very valuable tip that I'd recommend to anyone who's looking to do like an interview formatted show. I also think that in today's day and age, like if you can have video, do it. Video is a little bit more dynamic, and there's just like, you do a great job, Ajit, with like taking a piece of content, distilling it down into like 1 minute, adding some B-roll and, the captions and stuff on the end. Like those things, like they definitely work. And even if someone doesn't tune into a full episode of that podcast, they'll still derive value from that short form clip. They might even share it out on their social media. So that's really valuable as well. And then the last thing that I would say is just being really strategic and smart as to what's going to be the best way to create the most exposure so the most people can benefit from your content. So in terms of your guests, like creating a win-win, like co-promotional agreement up front. So I know that for me and my team, we spend a lot of time on each individual episode and the prep and the production and all the promotional assets and stuff. And what's really frustrating is when we do all that and create a great interview and the guest makes one Facebook post promoting it. So what I love to do with a guest is to kind of create a promotional strategy with them. And so there's an agreement in place as to how we're going to co-create a beautiful piece of content for both of our audiences. And that'll include dedicated emails and, social media, Instagram stories and all that to really give that episode the greatest opportunity of shining and being seen by more people. And then the last thing that I'd say is just the straight up hustle. Finding the right strategic partners, whether it's like finding a brand that you think really aligns with your message or what you're selling, and maybe they'll get, they'll include your podcast episode in their weekly newsletters, or finding maybe a big distributor who is looking for great content like yours, or from a PR perspective, find it like if you do a lot, let's say, if you're coaching like a specific niche, if you're teaching college kids how to get jobs, like at the end of the school year, you go after press from like local news outlets saying, all right, the school year's almost over. Here are some tips as to how to, take your career to the next level. So being timely and looking for opportunities that are unfolding, whether like in the annual social calendar or in the pop culture zeitgeist, if something happens out there, to really ride the wave of what's happening in pop culture, so you can go along for that ride and potentially get some more exposure that's going to come back to your podcast or your work and your business.
So I really like the unconventional ideas that you mentioned, that because I feel like if somebody was to start a podcast right now, like you had people that you knew, they probably gave you a little bit of jump off when you started your podcast. Same for me. Yeah. Like I had a few people that I know like you, and I'm like, hey, great guests, bring them on, have a conversation. I know that the conversation will naturally unfold to give tremendous value to people that are going to watch this or listen to this, depending on the platform. So that I feel like that we may be lucky in that sense a little bit, where we're like, all right, we got a little bit of something going on that we can utilize to get that initial traction. But the ones that are just starting, or ones that have started and have been, let's say, in this business for 3, 4, 5 years, but they've been coaches, or they have been somebody who's used one platform really effectively and got some traction on it and want to move to this platform, or so forth, don't have a big audience as of now because again they're coaches, so often they don't have a big audience. What would really work for them? I feel like from what you already mentioned, I think the last idea which you mentioned, like if it's a college, if you're a coach for college students or school students in picking their careers or while their careers are going, go find the school magazine that can work with you on your podcast and have some episodes being shared there, or their social media or their websites and so forth. So at least you'll get some initial traction for your potential clients. What could be some of those unconventional ideas, or where could somebody look for that? Because I almost feel when you're starting, it is about finding unconventional ideas because you don't have the investment to say, I'll run a Facebook campaign. And that's what we do. And when we consult companies and new coaches, we suggest them really simple but unconventional ideas. We say, hey, listen, do this. This will bring in a small group in the room. Sure. This will do a small audience, but it'll get you great results. Sure. What would be some of those ideas that you may have explored or are involved in?
Yeah, I mean, here's just one. If you're a productivity coach, for that matter, come up with like a beautiful one sheet or short tutorial video and send it to a bunch of businesses and say, hey, I created this. If you think this would be valuable for your staff, go ahead and share it with them. And then some of them will, some of them won't. And you never know who could end up seeing that clip. They might end up being a client. So that's one way I think of like leveraging maybe pieces of content you've created in the past or creating pieces of content, getting them in the hands of the right people in untraditional ways.
Oh, okay. That's great. That's a great idea, just to make a small little PDF / a video or a podcast episode and say, hey, here is something, and send it out to leaders in different communities or companies, because they always want more information to distribute their team members. Yeah. That's very interesting.
Yeah. One very valuable lesson that I learned, and when I started the podcast, I thought as long as I do my best every single day, focus on continued growth, that ultimately it's all going to work out and opportunities are going to come in and I'm going to generate the results I want to see. And while I feel like I've done that, that still doesn't guarantee that the opportunities will come in. So that's where the hustle like really comes into play. So to me, you really got to continue to put yourself out there. You can't expect that people are just going to find you. You got to knock on doors, let people know what you're all about, and see what happens.
How do you get past your initial, I would think there was like the ups and the downs that you kind of loosely mentioned. All those ups and downs, all those challenges where you're going, crap, this I've just put out. Like you said, I had all these dreams when I launched my podcast, and some of them are still manifesting. Some of them are still further away in the journey and so forth. Even with everything that you've put heart and soul into it, how did you get past all of that? How is it that you're continuing to show up every day and show up with all the power that you show up with every single day? I'm curious to hear the answer, because I know that's all of ours daily challenges. It's all of us going through our own dialogues of I should have been there, I should be this, I could be this, and then kind of beating ourselves up in a way. How do you work through that?
It's a great question, and I am so human. I go through moments and weeks where I am so inspired and I feel so confident and so clear in my vision and feel like I have so much momentum. And then something that is inevitable is to have the feelings on the opposite side of the spectrum. So there are days, there are weeks, there are times, seasons even, that I feel like it's never going to work out the way that I want it to. And then that story goes in my head that, I'm just living in a state of fear, and that like I've tried everything and it doesn't work, and maybe this isn't for me and it's never going to work out the way that I want it to. And like maybe I'm going to have to close my whole practice and go get a job, but I've been out of the job market for 4 years. No one's going to want to hire me. All those stories go through my head. They're absolutely real. And for me, it's breathing through those stories, being kind and gentle on myself, and remembering that every time I've been in one of these cycles before, I've always come out of it. And knowing that next wave of inspiration is right around the corner, and the sooner I'm willing to be kinder and gentler on myself and remind myself why I'm doing what I'm doing and my commitment to making a positive impact and creating value for people, the more I'm connected to that and gentle on myself, the sooner I ride through that wave of darkness and stress and fear and get back into a place of inspiration and then ride that next momentum wave.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. What would you suggest somebody who's now, let's say, at a stage where they're going, I'm interested in starting this podcast thing. I've got some initial hints of what I can do. What should they look at now? Should they list down the first 10 topics that they're going to cover? Even if, let's say, they decide to do a solo podcast, not everybody is living in a place like Los Angeles where there's access to so much talent at all times, or San Diego, or major cities where there's much easier to find people to interview because they've all concentrated themselves to certain cities, and you can go to the city and you just totally rock it. What would be your advice to somebody who, say, have no access to guests? And they decided, hey, listen, I want to still impact the world. I still want to create positive change, and I'm going to just sit down and just make my productivity podcast. Like, how and what would you suggest that they do to build that initial consistency so they can at least get this out in the world?
Sure. I heard you say a lot of things, and one of them was like, oh, I just don't know the guests who I'd have on. That's an excuse in my opinion. And the reality is there's all sorts of email templates and tools. Like, I know, like, I have a long well of resources of email outreach and things that I've created that have worked for me, and like, it's doable. So it's you can get past whatever your blocks are to starting a podcast. But if you've always wanted to start one, so if you're watching right now and you're like, it'd be cool to have my own show, do it. Do it, go for it and see what happens. And to me, what the step is just making that commitment. And to take that one step further is to put that commitment out to the universe, whether you want to post it on your social media, on your Instagram or Facebook. I'm going to be launching my podcast in January of 2020, and just putting it out there. And then when you're out and about talking to your friends, talking to people, and they ask you what you're working on, you say, I'm working on launching a podcast. It's coming in January of 2020. So that way you're putting it out there, you're manifesting it, and then you've also got that built-in accountability that that all these people you're talking to about your podcast, they're going to come asking you, how's your podcast going? Is this, like, can I listen to it when you launch it? So to me, that is like a great gateway of like really digging in and making that strong commitment. And then once you've done that, then taking the steps to get, even more clear on your vision, coming up with those list of 10 topics, your vision for your 10 episodes, deciding what equipment you want to buy, if you want to hire a producer, if you want to hire other people to do your marketing, all that kind of stuff. You can figure that out. And then the last thing I would say is just to record your first episode. Don't wait. It's so much fun to do. I remember that I recorded my first episode and I gave myself permission that I wouldn't even have to release the episode. But I recorded it. Yeah. It was good enough, and it became the first episode of the show. So it's like really just creating some momentum. It's like going to the gym when you haven't been in the gym in a while. It's always tough. Toughest thing is to make that commitment and to get your butt in there. But for every rep you take, the easier it gets, the better you get. And then before you know it, you've reached 241 episodes of your podcast.
Wow, that's amazing. It's your 241 episodes as the time when we're recording this. By the time it'll go out in the world, you will probably be at 250 episodes. His podcast is called Are You Being Real? And you want to go check it out right after you watch this episode. It's a phenomenal podcast. It's so good. We're going to link it up on the page somewhere here. So coming back to this conversation, what I loved, one piece that you gave away in the middle, which is just so fantastic, was record the first one and don't even care if you'll ever put out. Because I think that's one thing that would block a lot of people because they'll perfect it. They'll try to go, oh, I'm going to record my first episode. It's going to be perfect. And that's when I'll release it. And so that kind of takes away from actually getting the mic and then sitting and talking. And it doesn't have to be this fancier mic. You could just use your AirPods probably and just or your Apple Pods or whatever mic you use. Just use that and at least get it recorded, get it going. And I think that's so amazing and powerful and beautiful as an example for somebody to at least get started. And then once you're started, you will get the feeling like you did. You're like, I like this. Let's put it out, right? Sometimes you won't like it, but then at least you will be like, all right, I got it out of my system. Now I know if I want to do another one, and get it right in the next 4th episode or whatever that is. It doesn't matter, right? It's the progress, I think, over perfection that is so important, like anything else. So in the podcasting game, is there something that I should have asked until now around podcasting that I'm just not asking?
I think you did a great job of asking the questions. I think everything was great. I think the only thing that's coming up for me now is like, what is the future of podcasting? And the answer is, I don't know. It's growing so much and it's continuing to grow at such a rapid rate. And Apple is now getting competition. You know, Google came out with a podcast player, and Spotify now has podcasts, and they acquired Anchor and Gimlet. And advertising revenues are expected to reach 1.6 billion, I think, by 2022. So this game is so brand new. It's really exciting to see where it goes, and it's a big pie. There's a lot there. There's a lot uncertain. So, you know, I would say if you're looking to start a podcast, if you're looking to get into the game, might as well start now.
Might as well start now. So that was Mark Shapiro for you. We'll link up where to find more about Mark Shapiro below in the description of this video. If you loved what you just watched, go ahead and hit the like button, subscribe to our channel. It is the big red button that you see on the right hand side. If you haven't yet subscribed, it'll be red still. Go ahead, hit that one so we can send you amazing videos like this. We release new videos every Thursday and every Sunday. Every Thursday, you get a special edition of a short video that will give you one great insight on how to be a better coach. And on every Sunday, you get to listen to Business of Coaching podcast first time here on YouTube. So go ahead, knock that subscribe button, leave a comment for Mark. Tag him in there and tell him what did you love about this episode. Share that insight if you have an insight that you got out of this conversation. If you already have a podcast, link it up. We'll love to know who in our community is already hosting a podcast. We'll love to support you in there. If you're deciding now that you will like to start a podcast, let us know about that too. This is Ajit Nawalkha signing off with Mark Shapiro, and you are watching the Business of Coaching podcast.